Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at Etrailer, and today we are installing the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver that attaches to the bumper on a 2024 Ram 1500 Classic. Something that's unique with the Ram is they offer classic models, which generally are just older leftover stock that they rebadge, but it does throw a little bit of a difference when it comes to hitches. So first thing, if you are looking for a hitch for your Classic, make sure to use the fit guide to make sure you get the proper one. And there's a bunch of different options as far as full tubes that are going to give you a really high capacity, but if you're just kind of a, once and again you tow here and there, this is a really good option. It's super easy to install, and the great part is it's pretty well hidden. It just bolts up here and you get a nice 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, and that way you can get all your accessories loaded up, whether it be cargo carriers, bike racks, or even a ball mount. All of those accessories are going to stay in place with a 5/8 pin and clip. Now this is not included with the hitch, but a lot of times when you pick up accessories, they'll have those included, so that's something to look for. And if you plan on leaving a ball mount or any accessories on the truck long term, you might want to look at a locking pin and clip. That way you can lock this in place and know that no one's going to be able to walk away with those accessories. Plate style safety chain loops are a nice oblong oval shape. It makes it super easy to hook up your standard S hooks. Even a larger clevis style will go on here. And if it's a really large one, you might have a little bit of issues. As you can see, I'm kind of having to finagle this one out, but it will work. And as far as towing, it's actually rated pretty well. I mentioned some of the other larger hitches are rated for pretty high capacities, but this one's decent. Out the gate, you're going to have a gross trailer weight rating of 6,000 pounds, which is going to be the weight of the trailer plus the accessories loaded onto it. And your tongue weight rating, which is the downward pressure that's put on the inside of the receiver tube opening, is 600 pounds. So that's going to be your suspended accessories, cargo carriers, bike racks like that. And with that capacity, you'll be able to load that up. Cargo carrier, bike rack, fully loaded. I don't really worry that you're going to go over that weight capacity. Now it can be used with a weight distribution hitch, and you're going to get some real significant numbers with that. You actually get 10,000 pounds for that gross trailer weight rating and 1,000 for the tongue weight. Now it's important, you're going to want to check the vehicle's owner's manual to see what it's capable of towing before just hooking up and using those capacities, and then compare what the manufacturer says with the hitch, and also take into account any of your components you'll be using. Take the lowest number, and that way you're not going to overload anything. Now, the way that this hitch will sit, you have your hitch pin hole. It's only 2 inches from the center of the hitch pin hole to the furthest point on the bumper, which is really nice because I really don't worry that you're going to have any accessories in a folding position that might get in the way. You'll be able to definitely fold those up. Keep in mind, you're probably not going to be able to open up that tailgate unless you fold those folding components down. But something that's going to be important is going to be the height. So from the top of the receiver tube opening to the ground on this truck, it's coming in at 20 inches. And that's going to be important. I really don't worry that any of your accessories are going to bottom out or anything like that, but you can take that measurement, measure the coupler of your trailer, and then from there determine the rise or drop necessary to get that trailer nice and level. Now when it comes to the installation, this is a super easy hitch to install. The only drawback is it attaches using a large hex bolt that you'll see located here. So you go down and cinch that up to the bumper, and that's going to require a very large torque setting. So a 1-inch torque wrench is what you're going to need, which if you don't have one of those, you will need to rent one. They're rather large, so that's really the only caveat of this hitch compared to some of the other ones. The other bolts are super easy to get in place, and overall you should be able to knock this out if you have the proper tools, and I would say maybe 10 to 15 minutes. So as far as the installation goes, I'll walk you through that, and that way you can get your hitch installed on your Ram. To begin our installation, head back to your bumper, and there should be a cap that's located right where we're going to be bolting this into place, right in the center. And so we'll just pop this out. You can reach your finger up and get that removed. We'll just set that aside. Now we'll grab the hitch and the flathead bolt that's included, and I recommend, sometimes powder coat gets in the threads. Just make sure you can get a few threads started, because this is going to kind of hold our hitch in position before we get everything else tightened down. So just a few threads started there, and what we're going to do is the bumper, we're going to take this portion and slide that into place, and then the back plate should go around this bumper beam support. And then up top, just take that large hex bolt and get those threads started so it holds it in place. And with a few threads started, that'll at least hold this in position for now. The back plate has 2 holes, and we're going to need to get bolts passed through there to be able to tighten it up. And the way we're going to do that is grab one of your pull wires in the kit, and we'll raise this up to where we get the holes aligned that are in that bumper beam support. Take the coiled end, feed it in, and then pass this towards the outside. So once we get that coiled end passed on the outside, we'll take our spacer block, feed that over the coiled end, and you can just feed that into the bumper beam support. We'll then take our carriage bolt and thread that onto the coiled section. And with that in place, we'll just pull on our portion of our pull wire here until we get this to drop in. So as you pull it through, just raise that hitch up, and you may have to jostle it around a little bit here. But once you get it at this point, you're good to keep this in place. Now there's 2 pull wires, so go ahead and repeat on the other side. And once you get those in place, it's going to be easy. You just pull off your pull wire, take your serrated flange nut, and we're going to get that hand tightened. Now it's real important not to let that drop back into the bumper beam support. So using the hitch to kind of rest against the threads to hold it in place while you thread this on by hand is definitely going to help. So that's what I'm going to do here. And then just repeat this same process on the other side. So our hardware's in place, we just need to tighten and torque it down. And this is probably the step where you may need to rent a tool or borrow a tool from someone that has some heavy equipment, because a 1-inch torque wrench is generally not something that a normal person has in their garage. If you do, you're in luck, but otherwise you're going to need this to be able to get the torque settings found for our hex bolts up top. And we're going to be using a 1/2-inch hex bit to get this torque down. So we'll go ahead and get our torque wrench all set up, and then we will torque this down. It's important to torque this one down first. It's going to draw it up, and that way, instead of tightening those back bolts and then pulling those up, this is going to be the better method. Now there is a little bit of play in the hitch, so just make sure it's centered up. It's not a ton, but obviously you want to make sure that your hitch is nice and straight as you're installing it. So, and if you need to, you can use a power tool or something to make this process a little bit quicker. Just know that if you are getting a little resistance with smaller hand tools or that power tool, that powder coat buildup sometimes in those threads will give you a little resistance. But we're getting pretty close here, so I'll get this all torqued down. Our serrated flange nuts are going to be tightened and torqued using a 3/4-inch socket. Now you may notice our spare tire might be an issue when it comes to putting a socket on there. So I'm going to snug this down using a ratcheting 3/4 first, and then I can get my spare tire lowered down. And then torque settings are found in the instruction manual. They are quite a bit less than the previous flathead bolt. So we'll get our torque wrench set up with that and our 3/4-inch socket and get this torqued down. Now with those torqued down, I got my spare tire put back up. We've officially installed our hitch. Now there's going to be this small sticker that's going to go on the top of this hex bolt to keep moisture from building up in there and long-term corroding. The hardware is meant to hold up long-term, but also having water pooled in there is not going to be ideal. And I think a lot of this comes down to the instructions say that you're not going to put this cap back on, it's not going to fit, but I've found that that's not really the case here. So if your cap goes back on, awesome, you can kind of retain that factory look. And that was a look and installation of the Curt bumper mount trailer hitch receiver on a 2024 Ram 1500 Classic.